gives me great pleasure to introduce Supervisor Jim Steele from District 3.
When you look at San Francisco, everybody's been there, right? And you want to know how big our lake is. Well, the square miles of San Francisco, where our lake is about twice the square miles of San Francisco. You want to know how big this fire is? Well, I'm going to hold it up, and you can see from our lake that it's several times larger than the city of San Francisco. This was a large fire. It took out 460,000 acres, and the square mileage for the whole entire California is about 1 million acres, so it was about 0.5% of California. And if you were to look at how many acres have been taken out just since my term, which I came on in 2015, why, it would be about 70% of Lake County. So 70% of Lake County in actual acreage is a no small amount of acreage. So we had the Rocky, the Jerusalem, the Valley, and some still remember the Elk Fire. That was the first year, 2015. Then the Clayton, and then we had a flood and an earthquake. Then we had the Sulphur Fire. Then we had the River and Ranch Fire of this year. So we've had a lot of emergencies in Lake County. You might call us a petri dish for understanding how emergencies work. And here we still are, and it never really burned any of the important attributes of Lake County for which people want to come here and see. And that's really neat, because this county and counties like it are adapted to fire. In the last 50 years, we've had 103 fires, not counting these. And that averages 2 large fires a year. So you can expect somewhere in the county there's going to be a large fire burning at any given time. It's a fire-adapted community of brush and ecosystem. So what's happened, what's changed over time is a change in ecology because of a change in climatology. We've had 20,000 years of warming period, and 20,000 years ago you would have been standing on glaciers. And so in this direction that we've gone, we've changed the way that the forest community is, and we've also changed in the way that fire it relates to that forest community. When you keep fire out, all you're doing is you're going to have bigger fires when they actually do burn. So if you want to point the finger at why we had such large fires, all you have to do is look at what humans have caused by keeping fire out of their forest, by keeping it out of their landscape. So we're actually a community that lives on the edge of the wildland fire interface. And so the wildland brush interface and the forest, or our communities, are all one, because the entire Lake County lives within the intercoastal range. And the intercoastal range is, in fact, a wildland community. So that's why we have to have a different approach to both managing our forest, such that we allow for fire to be in the forest ecology, and we have it in such a way that we don't have to manage it because we're safe from it. So we have to change our approach. So post-fire falls into 3 categories. It's to protect ourselves from what has just happened, to rebuild in a different way, and repurpose how we actually look at what in fact is our area, our beautiful ecology. 350 bird species, thousands of plant species, hundreds of animal species. This place is amazing. And it's been damaged, but it'll come back. And it'll come back in a way that will have a vibrance and a new way of the plants and the wildlife to interact. And there's going to be a population explosion here. And all we have to do is sit back and look at that. So first thing I want to do is, what's the county's role in all of this? Well, first thing we have to do is to lobby the United States National Forest, the Mendocino National Forest, and the Bureau of Land Management to rebuild a landscape less prone to future fires given this new climatology. And we've already started that. I already have letters out. We're pulling together some resolutions, pulling together an approach to let them know that what they've done in the past has not been good for us. For instance, the Forks Fire, which was about 83,000 acres just over the hill, and laying on top of that, of course, is the imprint from this fire. That 83,000 acres, a lot of it was in the watershed for Clover Creek that runs into Middle Creek and comes back into the lake. No one monitored the runoff from that. But yet I had a lot of anecdotal input from people that said, wow, the stream ran dark with ashes for weeks at a time. And when the runoff happens from these fires, it happens over several years. In the first 3 years, you can expect most of the runoff and the changes within the soil community, the soil, it's called a community, but the soil attributes will run off or they'll either stay in place. And so when they come off and the forest is burned, there's going to be a lot of give back of nutrients that otherwise would be locked up by the roots of the trees. Those trees, those roots deteriorate, they give back that nutrient, the runoff comes and it runs off into your lake. Your lake is extremely sensitive to nutrients. And it's not a far-fetched to believe that the cyanobacteria blooms that you had from 2008 up to the middle of 2013 all happened because of the fires that were in the watersheds of this particular community. So 480 square miles of watershed for our 65 square miles of lake. And yet there was no monitoring. It's pretty easy to not get caught if nobody looks. And they do it by design. If you look at BLM, they've had an off-road vehicle park up there for years, since the 60s. There's never been any winter monitoring of the runoff into Scotts Creek. And yet, and nobody ever asked them. I asked them, I said, well, how come you guys don't monitor? This is, well, we're only worried about what comes out to the edge of our borders, and after that, we don't care. And the National Forest is the same way. The National Forest gives off to Middle Creek, comes into the lake. It also gives off into the Eel River and affects the entire 3 counties that it passes through after it leaves us, and it gives off into Stony Fort, which runs off into the Sacramento River. That's just the National Forest there. And everybody ought to be concerned about the runoff from those rivers. So one thing that we want to do is have the runoff monitored that comes into Clear Lake. And I'll tell you what, if you're monitoring and they know you're looking, they're going to do a better job. And we're going to lobby for that. The new forest that we really want, not the old forest. The old forest had trees as thick as the hair on a dog's back. And anyone who's driven through Elk Mountain Road and driven through that area will see, they'll remember how close those trees were. You're not going to see that anymore. You're not going to see any trees. Those trees are going to be on the ground before long. So the new forest should include wider space trees for less water use, so that gives off a clean water. That should really be the production of the forest, is clean water. It should be replenishing the Eel River, the Clear Lake, the Stony Fort. It should promote wildlife habitat. You know, wildlife habitat is really where it's at. If the wildlife are healthy, your forest is going to be healthy. And you'll know from the populations of wildlife just how healthy your forests are. I've been in this business 45 years. I'm a forest ecologist, I'm a licensed forester, and I've taught freshwater ecology at the university. And I will tell you that you have certain attributes in the forest and in your streams that you should look to tell you whether you're doing a good job. The native fish in the stream and the wildlife in the forest. And yet those are not monitored from that standpoint. We certainly want to market trees from the forest because that gives us an economy, and we want to do it for a smaller market with better trees. And you can do that with your national forest, and now they're finally starting to talk about it that way. We want to do a marketing from the standpoint of recreation and get access for hikers, access for people that are using the forest, because they will come here, they will stay in your restaurants, they'll stay at your hotels, and they will do their hiking, and we can outfit them, and this can be the jump-off place for an amazing 350 square mile national monument right here behind us. A lot of it burned and a lot of it didn't, and all of it will come back. So we want to review this. We want to review the impediments to growing a healthy economy from the standpoint of being a rural county. But you want to protect your attributes. You do not want to have growth that's going to harm things, that's going to have runoff that affects your lake, and you can't get it back because now you got somebody sitting in the wrong place creating a lot of problems for your lake. So you want to be very careful about how you review your projects. All rural counties have struggled with the economic rebound. In fact, most of the rural counties have not rebounded. We're just one of 35 rural counties that have not rebounded. But yet, what is this? We're 5th largest economy in the world. All of that lies in 23 counties of the state. So rural counties did not participate in that. And in fact, each rural county has to establish their identity based on their attributes. And so what are those attributes? All rural economies are based on the natural and human attributes that are in or within that county. Those human attributes can be all the way from tribal to the people that have come here since tribal and the tribal that have stayed behind. All of them. We have 7 tribes here. That's amazing. We've got all these people who have come from all over the world. That's amazing. And they're all living together in just beautiful harmony. It's a harmony here that you don't find in other places. So I find this to be in a most amazing place, and every time you get up, you look out the window and you see beautiful horizons all the way around. And you see a burnt landscape, and don't worry, it will come back. So the natural attributes are such as timber, mining, accessibility. Accessibility. Keep repeating that word. People have to be able to get there. They have to be able to get here. They want to be able to stay. If they come here and it takes them 3 hours to get here and they have a beautiful day, boy, this is great. They've got to look around to a place to stay because another 3 hours home is a little bit of a long day. So accessibility also includes stayability. You want skiing. Well, some counties are skiing, hiking, view sheds, their natural history, their human history. Bird watching, we have that. We have clean air. We have the Great Lake. This is one of the greatest lakes in the world. It's one of the most notable lakes in the world. No lake lives this long in a warm water, low elevation environment as this one does. And because it's a squeeze of plate tectonics, which drops the plate out on the bottom, and it's a big fault block that drops down about a ½ inch a year. A ½ inch of sediment comes in every year, and so it's kind of in a steady state. It's 23 feet deep, 26 feet deep on average, I guess, and so it's been around for almost 1 million years. Most lakes fill in, become a meadow, 10,000 to 100,000 years. Look around the state. All those valleys you see, those used to be lakes. So with all of that, the attributes that we have are not in the urban suburban counties. We want to get people to come from all that richness, come here, use your money here and then go home, please. So, did I just say that out loud? I didn't mean. So the human attributes for a county are its great people, and we do have great people because it's a great county. We have nice neighborhoods, and we want to make them nicer. We do have use facilities such as parks, trails, museums. Crime rate is important. When you look at the crime rate, you have to look at it from the standpoint that you want to be able to heal the communities so that we don't have the crime. So it is not a breeding ground for crime. We want to have low drug rates. We know that we don't have that. We need law enforcement programs supported in such a way that that's the momentum and that's the direction we're going. We're not supporting our law enforcement community as we should. We're not enforcing or supporting our code enforcement community as we should. It does take money to do that, and all of the other programs are a powerful pull away from it, and so we have to look at how we're doing our business at the county. We have wonderful visitor facilities, that amount that we do have, and we really need more of it. We do have resorts. We do have local knowledge. You know, when you look at from local knowledge, we have the Tourist Ambassador Program. How amazing is that this county supported the Tourist Ambassador Program, have several hundred people now trained to tell other folks where to go and how to enjoy this county. What we could do is improve on that and make it the Tourist Ambassador Guide Program so that guides are available for someone who wants to hire out and say, I want to go and learn dressage in Lake County. Oh, we have beautiful first-class dressage facilities right here, and yes, I can hook you up. And I can also hook you up with trail riding, I can hook you up with hiking, I can hook you up with fishing, I can hook you up with bird watching as nowhere else in the world. 350 species of bird. So some kind of guide facility would be great. So we do have that local knowledge, access. We need that. We need to be able to show people how to have access. When I was doing search and rescue and finding people that found access and then got lost, and so we were out looking for some folks, and I found this group that was up bicycling in the backcountry, and I says, wow, you guys really got out here pretty far. Yeah, last year we came out here on our own trying to figure out how to find the trails, that sort of thing. We found everybody and we took them home. Boy, you guys ought to, label this. You ought to be able to market it. You ought to get people out here because it's hard to find a place to stay, do all the bike riding they want to do, and then wind up getting home again before dark. And so they had to do their camping or whatever it is while they were here, otherwise they would not be coming. So we can build on this. So we do want to build a local knowledge, we want to build access, we want to build a place to stay and work and build a cleaner neighborhood. And so my final comments are, what are we doing? Excuse me. We've got a lot of fire. We've got a lot of people that are at high risk because they live in older homes, in older communities, in older neighborhoods, on slopes, with all of the negative fire attributes built right into the system. We almost lost all 7 communities right along this North Shore. That is my district. All 7 almost went. That's how close it was. All you had to do was change the wind direction, change the heat amount. You could have lost all of them. You could have lost the entire city of Lakeport. So we have built over the last year what we call a fire risk reduction program to build safety awareness into homes and to increase neighborhood safety. We're just about ready to launch that. It'll be next month. We're looking for grant dollars to help support it, but it is state of the art and it is a Lake County model, and everyone that I have talked to outside this county says that they want it when we get it built because it's good. It basically will allow you for lower insurance. It will basically promote the insurance companies to come back in, and anyone that is a risk to their neighbor can get fined if they don't clean it up. And so if they don't clean it up, we can clean it up for them and build them, and with a fine. So that program will be launched next month. Trash rules to follow. The trash that people have in this county, in District 3, there's lots of ad hoc trash dumps in the backcountry. Folks have realized that it's a long way to haul their trash all the way to the dump. And not everybody wants to pay the bill every month because they're very independent folks. So we have to give them some rules to follow. And we're going to do that. Those rules will be coming out next month. And those rules will basically say if you're going to store trash and haul that trash to the dump, here's the rules you follow, and if you don't follow them, any complaint from your neighbor, again, back to the fine business. All those fines from both of these programs will wrap back into the code enforcement or law enforcement, given the amount of participation that they have. What have we done from the standpoint of all of the cannabis that was going on that was rogue, and everybody was growing cannabis, and it was bad for your backyard, that sort of thing? Well, we decided to put rules in place and say if you follow the rules and you pay your fees and get your permit and you do it the way that you don't bother your neighbor, then you're good to go. Now we've done that. Took a long time to put that program together, and now we finally put the last piece in place, and that's the fines. Back to the fines. If you do not have a permit, you pay a significant fine, and you will not like the level of that fine because it is $1,000 a day. And it is to try to teach you that it's cheaper to go out, get the permit, and not bother your neighbor. And so that's the approach we took. And now it looks like a lot of people are talking about the market in a different way and making it so that Lake County is not a place where you have rogue cannabis, that in fact, if we're going to do it here, let's do it the right way. And so some production people are going to come in, produce some products here in Lake County and try to make it the best, so that it is no worse than the beautiful vineyards that we have, and that in fact it's not a backyard nuisance. And there are ways to do it to kill the smell, and that's what we've imposed. We've also gone after at the state level for our lake, because we could not build a management program for the lake. This is the state level Blue Ribbon Committee. They put $2 million into UC Davis to develop a cache of all of the information known about the lake to bring that forward and inform the Blue Ribbon Committee. They also put $15 million in to finish up the Middle Creek project, because that's one of the places where you get 1,400 acres of protection for all of the runoff, which is about 70% of the sediment coming into the lake and the nutrients. It'll go through a marshland just like it used to do in the old days. We're trying to restore that again. So we're going in the right direction on that. We've also, there's been developed town councils around the county. It's been held up a little bit. We've had quite a few at a time, and really it's coming back again. I have 3 in District 3. It takes up the entire district. So if you want to find out what's going on, and if you want to develop your town around an idea, a concept, and move it forward, you can do it at your town council. For instance, one town wanted their identity in this way. In Lucerne, they wanted to have the harbor dredge so that it could bring boaters over, put a series of docks in place, and you can actually tie up and use the restaurants in Lucerne. 50 years, nobody thought of that. And so they're trying to bring some ideas forward. And certainly, they wanted to rebuild the castle that we call the castle, which is an old hotel, so that it was a college facility, which is going to be, again, I hope, and it is going through closing right now. It's going to be a local learning and convention center. And they also wanted to rebuild their community center so that it could be the heart, the old senior center, so it could be the heart of the community. Now, finally, the facilitating reburn of burn areas. And the county has been very close in trying to keep the rebuilding going for the Valley Fire and others. We've gone through all kinds of staffing issues. We've gone through all kinds of problems with keeping this thing moving in an effective way. But I'll tell you what, the staff has been amazing. Carol didn't hear, I would have sang her praises. Carol Hutchinson, they've all kind of brought it together, and we're moving forward again in an amazing way, even with the low staffing. We've just recently adopted a lower square footage. So instead of the 720 square foot at the state level, they lowered it to 360. But each county is a land use county. We have to adopt a lower level if we're going to do that. We did that. We're now down to 360 square foot. That means that you can build a house with a 360 square foot of floor space instead of 720 as the minimum. But it can only be in certain areas where it's zoned for that, and there are areas where there used to be smaller places and you can still have a smaller place in those areas. So they were impeded by the fact we had not gone to the lower level. And then finally, you know that we've supported the vineyard economy over time, because look around at how many vineyards we have. And recently, we've added the ability for those places that have wine tasting to have food as well. And so it's not as though we haven't been thinking about this moving forward, but we're not trying to build the economy for you. We're trying to remove the impediments that keep the economy from happening. This is a private industry, private rights. This is for you, the business people, to build here, and then to tell the government how to do that in such a way that protects the attributes that are natural and native and continue the health of the economy, and in fact will then rebound to a natural health of the economy for you. And so that's where we've been going, and I hope that's the right direction for you. Thank you. And am I supposed to ask if there's any questions? Okay, are there any questions? Or was that so good nobody wants to ask me? I see in the back. No? Rethought? Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Yes?
Is there a website?
For what? I mean, there's lots of websites. Lake County has a website, yes. Yeah. And I only have 4 months left, and so what I've been told is that they want me to stay on with the Blue Ribbon Committee. I've been appointed to that. I've also, the fire people have asked me to continue to work with them on the fire risk reduction program, so I'm going to do that. I'm a commissioner on the Eel Russian River Commission, and I will be an advisor to them. I'm developing some programs for them because the eel is basically the treasure for the coastline. Our counties that are a neighbor, they're running out of water. Well, they're running out of water because the trees that were being grown up on a national forest was reducing the runoff until they weren't getting any. And so we're starting to lobby so that there's more water. Well, if there's more water for the runoff for the eel, and on this side where the Clover Creek and the Middle Creek actually run into the lake, there'll be cleaner and more water for this lake, and that's a good thing as well. So I'm going to stay on. I'm going to lobby for these things, and we're going to teach some courses, and I'll be glad to be an instructor on the fire risk reduction. It's a fairly significant course. It tells you how to look at your home, change it, modify it in such a way you can harden your home. You can also harden or change the attributes of the plants that are around you, so you can reduce your radiant heat. You can reduce the ember cast threats to your home, and so basically you can make your home safer so that you can get lower insurance. So I'll be around for all of that, and I'm enjoying myself. Okay, thank you.